I think most of you might be knowing what is web application and what is web applications development. But just in case some of you do not know, so let's begin with the introduction. We'll go from basics and then we'll get into more mature stuff. So as you might be knowing, web applications is simply means websites. Okay, websites which give you some sort of functionality, some sort of information. That is a simple definition of a web application. But why do we need web applications? We need it for businesses. If you have a business or if anybody has a business, they have some offline processes. Just consider a simple example of a library. Okay, library is an offline entity, right? They have their books and everything, but if they want to manage the books, they want to manage inventory, they want to manage their staff using a library management system, then they are getting everything which they were using by pen and paper, they are getting it online, okay, within their systems. So that is how a web application might help them. Or your business can be totally online. For example, e-commerce businesses or you know social media, okay, all of them are totally online businesses. If you have any business and the business grows, you have higher challenges in your businesses. For example, you have a pizza shop. You can just have a shop. You can give a phone number to everybody in your locality so that everybody can order pizza from your shop. Okay, that's a simple business. But what if you want to have one shop? You want to have more than one shop in a particular city, or you want to have a number of pizza shops in India, for example. Then what do? You give a phone number to everybody, fine. But whenever a person calls, how do you know from where the person is calling? How do you know which shop should cater to that request? And how do you know which delivery agent should be assigned to that customer? So all that is done using a web application, a web system which will assign the correct shop to the for the customer, the correct delivery agent, and then the customer also has an option to see what is happening in for with their order, whether the pizza is in the making or it is on the way. So all these things can be done using a web application. For example, Domino's, Pizza Hut, they are using this kind of web system. Okay, so these kind of custom web applications, these kind of solutions, they can automate business processes. They can provide a superior return on investment. Now, obviously, Pizza Hut and Domino's have invested in their application, on their websites, and in their mobile applications, right? But they are happy to do that. Why? Because they are getting so many customers for that. You and I would not be ordering from Domino's if they did not have a good website or they did not have a good application, right? They are getting a higher return from their investments. And so many businesses are getting such higher returns on their investments that web application development has become a very good career choice for engineering students and IT people. Okay. And in fact, those people who have never been into engineering or IT, they are also coming into getting a career made in web applications development. Why? Because we all have become so, mobile savvy or system savvy that we want to order everything online, right? For example, going to a doctor also, we never thought that we'll have it online. But now we have systems which are helping us with that. In fact, these systems are smart, so smart. For example, one of my friends is working with 1mg. So 1mg has this system in which the artificial intelligence even asks questions, relevant questions to the patient about their disease, so that they can route the patient to the correct doctor. This is to optimize the process of using the time of the doctor properly and giving a good experience to all the customers and patients, right? So this 1mg, Healthify Me, all are examples of web applications. Also, other examples are social media, e-commerce websites, delivery services, financial services, for example, bank websites and Zerodha, etc. Then you have entertainment sites like Book My Show. You have travel booking sites like Make My Trip, and you have communication services like the Zoom, which we are using. So all these are examples of web applications and how web applications are helping in businesses and automate things. Now, as a web application developer, you would be creating web pages, you would be creating websites, okay, and features in those things. Now, let's consider a simple, structure of a particular web page. There are three aspects of a web page. there is structure, there is style, and there is behavior. Okay. So structure is defined by HTML. CSS it helps us in defining style, and the behavior is defined by JavaScript. Now, I'll show you an example of all of these. So this is an example of a website. This is the website of Cisco Systems, cisco.com. Okay. Now, if you can see this website, there are all these things, from beginning to end, like this. There's this logo, there is a menu, there is a blue bar, then there are these fancy images. Okay. Then there is a button over here to contact, and all these things. Okay. So this is actually making us the structure of the website. Okay. Then you have the next thing which you have is style. Okay. Style, just look at the way things are placed over here, the font sizes which are used, the colors which are used. You can see that this watch free button is having some sort of shadow around it. These images are having some sort of shading with them. All these things are defined with CSS. And then we see behavior. Like, for example, it is telling us that there are some sessions which you can watch free. When I click on watch free, okay, then I come to this particular page wherein they have a lot of sessions which they give. And then I can just, type my, query and then see, okay, there are some results over here. Now, if you have noticed, I typed web, I clicked on enter, but the page did not reload. This page did not reload. It just gave me some results which it wants to show. Now, if I just remove it and click on enter again, it is giving me all by default all the resources which are available. This behavior of not reloading and still giving this data to us, that is done by the behavior of this website, and that is defined by JavaScript. All right. So now, if you see any particular website, for example, this Cisco website, and if you have to see the source, you just type Control-U, and then you are able to see this whole big window of all the code which is used to create that web page. Now that one web page, look at this. This one web page of all these boxes and everything has such a huge code. All these lines of code. All right. Now, if you can see over here, this head, this link. Now, if you don't understand anything over here, that's absolutely all right. Don't get scared, because you will be studying all these things once you do some course on web application development. But if you see over here, HTML is written, right? And then there is head tag, meta tag, link tag. All these tags are there. This is a part of HTML. This is defining the structure of your web page. Then there are these script tags. Okay, anything within the script tag is JavaScript. This is defining behavior of your web page. Then anything within the style tag is CSS, which is defining the styling of your web page. All right. So all these things you are going to learn once you try to study web applications development. All right. So just now we just discussed about structure, style, and behavior of a web page, right? Using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Now, I'm going to tell you about 3 areas where web application engineers are working. One is front end, one is back end, and one is database. So I think most of you got it right at the front end. Front end means anything which a user sees and interacts with. Back end considers all the business logic. Every feature which you want to use, that is coded in the back end. And the database again is the data storage which we have. So now we come up with this web application architecture. Everything which you see on your laptop, your mobile, your tablets, etc., that is the front end. The technologies, the most famous technologies which are used to code this are HTML5, CSS3, Angular, React, Bootstrap, and JavaScript, of course. Then you have your database. It has a storage of the data which your website is going to use. That database has, obviously database management system. And the most common ones are MySQL, Oracle, MongoDB, PostgreSQL, or Cassandra. Then, for example, I just showed you, right, that I typed something on the Cisco website and I got some results. Okay, that request is going from the front end to your database. being processed by a server and coming back to you. So the thing which is sitting in the middle, that is called the middleware, and the programming is done. The most of the business logic is coded in there using, for example, Java or Python or Node.js or C or PHP. So now your web application is ready. But for example, you want to create a web application like Uber or Ola. Won't you be using Google Maps for that? Uh, if you try to create a Google Maps in your own company, that is foolishness. That is stupidity, because you are reinventing the wheel. Why not just use the API which Google is providing? Now, what do I mean by API? Application Programming Interface. That is some services which are provided by some service providers, which you can use within your software. It may be free, you may have to buy it, but you would want to integrate it within your system. For example, I just gave you an example. Uber uses Google Maps. Okay, that can come in your front end. Any API can come in your middleware also, or on your database level also. And this image, which I've put, besides the cloud, that indicates that APIs are also interdependent on each other. So one API might be using another API. It's a small world and the world is entirely connected. All right. So once we have understood this web applications architecture, let's go ahead and explore this humongous amount of web development stacks available to us. Now, obviously, you should not get scared by this, because we are not going to use everything together. We don't have to learn everything. We just have to pick one thing which is suitable for our application. What is that one stack which is good for our application? There are these different stacks. What do I mean by stacks? Stacks means a group of technologies which will help me create a good web application. For example, many people were using, in fact, LAMP stack. LAMP stack means you are using MySQL on your database side, and coding is done using PHP. And on the front end, obviously, there is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So LAMP stack was used earlier. Many people, many corporates, many companies are also using Java. And then there are so many frameworks also within Java and technologies of Java which people are using. Nowadays, many people are learning Python for machine learning and data science because it provides very good mathematical libraries. But Python can also be used for web applications development with their framework called Django. Okay. And now, for example, you don't know anything. You just know simple HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and you want to make an entire website. You want database and everything, front end, back end in your website. So you can just, use this full stack JavaScript framework, in which in the front end you might use either AngularJS or React. In the back end you might use Node.js, and in the database you can use MongoDB, because everything is JavaScript over here. These are just different frameworks. So a very famous stack which many startups are using, many engineers are learning, that is the MERN stack. In the front end you can be using React, that is R in the MERN. And in the backend, you can be using Node.js, which is the N. And in the database, you can be using MongoDB, which is the M. And then Express is the engine on which you will be working on, this web application. All right. So, and also, you might have heard Ruby on Rails. That is also another programming language which people use to create web applications. Now, for example, you have, studied one of the stacks, and then, you're all ready to start a web development. Now, what are the typical tasks which a web developer will be doing? Okay, the first thing is requirements gathering. You meet the client, you ask them what they want. If they don't know what exactly they want, you just show them some examples of what their business is about, and then they can tell you what requirements they have, and then you can just make a document for that. Once this is done, the second point is design specifications. Either your tech lead will do it, or you at some point of time will be designing an entire web application. Okay, so that the design document is made. Then the third thing is coding. A web developer like you, okay, or me, we will be doing coding. And then once we code something, we code some feature for a big website, or we code an entire website, we obviously have to see whether it is working properly or not, right? That is called testing. So what is testing? We are just seeing that our feature is working properly or not. So there are two things. One is unit testing and one is integration testing. These two are not like different types of testing. This is just the same thing, but one feature you are testing in your laptop, that is called unit testing. then that same feature you are putting in the entire big system, and then you are testing that thing which is integrated in that system. So that is called integration testing. For example, you have a an e-commerce website. Now I'll be sharing with you an e-commerce website. Yeah. So this is mirror.com. So this is an e-commerce website. This was created, this is in fact a startup, and it was started by some seniors in my college. Okay. So this earlier they started with only jewelry. They were only selling, artificial jewelry. And now, after a few years, they are selling, all these things. So now, for example, in this e-commerce website, you have a lot of products, and in the list of products, you want to sort those products. Now, you want to sort them, for example, by the date from which they were added. Okay, you just created a feature for sorting by date. Now you tested it on your machine. That is unit testing, and it is all good, all clear. Now you put it into the entire website. The website earlier was sorting it by price, and it was sorting it by popularity. Okay, now your new sort by date is also added. Is anything breaking because of your code? No, everything is good, everything is working. So that is integration testing. Okay, so once your unit testing is done, once your integration testing is done, everything is cool, then you deploy it on production. What do you mean by deploying it on production? It means that making it available for all the customers to use. Okay, so production deployment is done, your customers are able to use your new feature, and then once your website is good and everybody is using it, then you might obviously come through some problems which people are facing, or something is breaking, or some problems are happening. So obviously you will have to maintain your website. So production deployment and maintenance happens after this. Below this, you can see a timeline. So the first thing is wireframes, mockups, or design. I mean, these are just fancy words for telling you how your website should look. And this is given you by the UI people. UI means user interface, or UX means user experience. These people determine that what is a good look of the web page, which we should have. Then the front end engineer will code it, or you will code it. The front end part, you will code it. Then the back end engineer will code it, or you will only code it after the front end is done. Once all these things are done and unit tested on their respective laptops, then the website or the software is given to the QA or testing group. They are responsible that all the features or the new features are working absolutely properly in every case. Okay, they are quality assurance engineers, and only once your software or your website is working very nice, only then it is handed over to the customer. Because obviously, if your website is not good and then it is handed over, so the customer will not be happy. Okay. Now I'll just give you some, names of some softwares, and we need to understand this difference. There are two types of softwares. Okay, one is open source software, and one is proprietary software. Open source means free to use and free to contribute also. Okay, so the source code is only available of that particular software. For example, Windows. Okay, nobody has the source code of it except Microsoft. Why? Because Windows is not open source, but Ubuntu. It's a Linux operating system. It is open source. Java programming language, Python, Node.js, all these browsers which we are using, they are open source. We are not paying anything for the browsers, right? WordPress, PHP, MongoDB, Firebase, all these are just examples of a lot of open source products which are available to us for free. Okay. We can also contribute in them. If we find there is something which we can, make better, then we can, contribute to open source. Then there are other softwares for which we have to pay, for which we have to buy licenses. For example, Windows, Microsoft Office, Apple iTunes, Photoshop, macOS, Skype, WinRAR, AutoCAD, etc. Okay. So now, once, for example, you are a very good, okay, not very good, but yeah, you are a web applications developer. You know your languages, you know your stack, you know how to design systems, you know how to work with a team. Okay, but how do you grow as you mature? How would you contribute in delivering stable and maintainable softwares? For that, you need to know the best practices in your field. And what do I mean by best practices? These are basically solutions of commonly available problems. Every engineer, every web applications developer is going to face some problems in development, right? So there are these best practices which you can use to overcome those problems. For example, object-oriented programming has been proven to give a very good maintainable and scalable web application. Okay, so that's why many people are using object-oriented programming. Java is an example of object-oriented programming language, right? Then we also have MVC, Model View Controller. For example, you are having Java as your language and you are using Spring as its framework. Okay, in Spring, you will be using MVC framework, Model View Controller. What is the meaning of Model View and Controller? View is simply just like front end, right? View is the part of what the user sees. Model is relating to database, handling entities of the database, and controller is having the business logic. Why do we do all these things? Why are all these things there? Because we want separation of concerns. And what is the meaning of separation of concerns? I know there are a lot of new words for you, so don't get scared. Just listen to me. Try to inculcate them in your mind, and then you will be learning about each of them as you become a good web developer. Okay, what is the meaning of separation of concerns? Basically, what you want is that if I change something over somewhere, it should not affect anything at other places. For example, if I change anything in the view, it should not break anything within the controller layer or within the model layer. Okay, so just separate concerns. Okay, like I can just give you a small example, right? Anything you do in the kitchen doesn't affect what happens in the living room, right? Because you have completely separated cooking and everything in the kitchen, and you have separated, for example, watching television in the living room, right? So one thing doesn't affect something else. But if you keep everything together, any mishap happening in the kitchen will affect somebody watching the TV if everything is together, right? So that was just a simple example. The next best practice is mobile first development. Now you and I, we both use mobile phones more than laptops, right? So there are some applications and websites which want that the mobile users should be benefiting first. So they first plan for having a good website on the mobile, and then only they just think about how it will look and how it will behave on the laptops and tablets and other devices. Then there is test driven development. I already told you testing is a very important part of software development life cycle. But testing comes later on, right? In test driven development, testing comes before. How is that possible? You write down all the tests. What is my website supposed to do? A, B, C, D, F things, okay? And then, is A working fine? Yes. Is B working fine? Yes. Every time, you're creating more and more features in your website, all the test cases are passing. All the test cases are passing. That is called test driven development. Okay. Then there is responsive design. Now I'll show you what responsive design is. So this is the Cisco website, and look at this. This is the Mirror website. Okay. Now this is a full screen website. As I'm reducing the screen size, you can see that some changes are happening. My menu is coming on two levels. Then after a point of time, the entire menu is vanishing. Look at here. The menu was there. Now the menu is not there. Also, this image slider, as I'm increasing the screen size, the slider size is also increasing. Why is this happening? This is happening because our website is optimized for various devices which will be accessing this website. For example, this website will be accessed by laptop right now, which I'm doing. You can also access the same website by on your phone. Now, if you can see all these items, now again in your Cisco website also, all these boxes, all these things, you can see 6 boxes and three in a row. But now, as I'm reducing the screen size, it has stacked one upon the other. If you can see now, everything is one upon the other. Now we don't have three in one row. But if I'm increasing my screen size, then we have three in a row, right? So this is responsive design. You design your website in such a way that people and devices, different devices are able to access it in a better way. Okay, so that is a best practice which most of us use. Then we have design patterns. Design patterns is something which you're going to learn once you become a good web developer. So I'll just leave that for now. Now, once you understand all these things, and then you have to get into jobs. You can work as a complete front-end developer, just working on front-end. You can work as a back-end developer, just working on back-end. You can work all you can work on all stacks. You can work on front end, you can work on back end, you can work on database. So you become a full stack developer. I'm a full stack developer. Okay. You can also join as junior software engineer, member of technical staff, software development engineer, IT engineer. These are just names of different posts. Now, what are the paths which you can take as a developer? You can join a multinational corporation. You can join a job at a startup. You can join a government job. You can also build your own startup if you have a product or service idea in mind. You can provide freelance services. You can create web applications for different customers on project basis, and you can get paid for that. You can also become a private consultant, but that requires some experience. Okay. Now, when I talk about, joining a job at a multinational corporate, many people have this thing in mind that there are two types of companies, product-based companies and service-based companies. Okay. Product-based companies are those companies who have their own products. Their business is their product. For example, Flipkart or Amazon, their business is their e-commerce website, right? Google has their own products. Facebook has its own product, and American Express has their own product. But there are companies who hire engineers to rent them out for clients. So those are service-based companies. For example, Infosys, Accenture, Cognizant, Capgemini, Wipro, TCS. There are many companies like that, and these are just examples. So I just wanted to tell you that the pay in product-based companies are higher. The kind of work, the goodness of work in product-based companies are higher. The flexibility which they provide to engineers in product-based companies are higher, and the growth and transition prospects also in product-based companies are better. But there is a point. The point is that not everybody can get into product-based companies. You need to be very good in your skill. You need to be very hardworking. You need to be very knowledgeable. You need to have good problem-solving skills. Only then you will be able to get into a product-based company. So we as engineers should aim to getting into product-based companies. If we get into service-based companies, that is also good, but our target should be that. Now, once you are a good engineer, and then you want to get into some senior levels, then you can be a tech lead, you can be an architect, you can be a business analyst, you can be a project manager or owner, you can be a program manager, you can be a software development engineer or an IT engineer. And in the top management, you can get into a management position like manager, people manager, a VP, CTO, or CEO. Then there are these other roles which are kind of related to web applications developer. I'll just let you know about that in case you might be interested. So we saw that, there are these people who make layouts and frameworks for basically mockups for your website, right? So designers are there. If somebody's interested, may become a designer. If somebody is interested only in working with database administration, then they can become a database administrator. One can also go into digital media marketing, search engine optimization, and growth hacking kind of roles. One can also become a product manager or owner, like not technically coding and doing everything, but yes, knowing how to create a product, what should the product be, how to market it, what people want, and then what are the performance indexes for them, all that. Okay. Now, if you are a web applications developer, you obviously have programming skills. So using these programming skills, you can also get into other areas. Like you can get into blockchain or machine learning, artificial intelligence, or big data, data science. These are also places where companies are investing into for their, technological problems and advances. If you like to work on systems and, Linux servers and all that, you can get into server or system management. A number of companies are also having requirements for a deployment engineer or a network architect engineer. You might have heard site reliability engineering as an option. So a lot of people are getting into that also. As I also told you that testing is one aspect of software development lifecycle. So companies also recruit testers. They are quality assurance professionals. So if anybody wants, can become a tester also. And obviously, every website is supposed to be secure. So so every company, every web application needs security professionals. So anybody who's interested into ethical hacking and that the data is not getting leaked from the website, so that's very important. So security professionals also are required. Now, this is a homework for you. After this workshop, you should study this case. You need to create a to-do list application. Now, everybody, I think, might be knowing what a to-do list application is. You want to write down a list of all the things which you want to do today or in a week or maybe in your life, whatever you want to do. You want to make a list of that. Then you want to, read that also later on by opening your app. You want to update also. For example, you have written that, today I want to study 4 hours, today, but now you don't have a lot of time. So you just want to update it that, okay, study 3 hours in a day. So that updating should also be there. And then once you have done it, once your task is over, then you should be able to delete it also. Okay. So that is CRUD operations. CRUD operations should be there in your application. CRUD means create, read, update, and delete. These operations should be there in your to-do list application. Pick up a stack, know how do you create a to-do list application, use the relevant tools to create it. Once you create a to-do list application, you can be sure that now I can create many other applications using that particular stack, and now I can be a good web developer. Okay. You can create applications like this, and then you can showcase it to the world by putting it into public repositories, and I'll just tell you about that in 2 minutes. Now, whether you create a to-do list application or you create a Facebook, any application, any web application should have some good aspects to it. And what are those? It should be user friendly, because it's all about the user after all. It should be fast. The application, applications have a need for speed. If you go to Instagram and it doesn't load for a long time, you won't use it. Your application should be adaptable, because the only constant is change. So as soon as some changes are required, your application should be able to quickly adapt to them. Then your application should also comply with all the quality specifications. So it should be assured. It should also be robust, meaning it should have lowest downtime. For example, I open Google and someday Google doesn't open up. I will feel that my internet problem is there, because I can never believe that Google has any downtime, So it seems that, Google is always available. So your application is also, your application should also have the lowest downtime, right? Then your application should also be secure. As I told you, data is very important. Your data should not get leaked. Your website should not get hacked. So security is not a feature. It is a very, very essential part. So it is your application only. It's not a feature of the application. Your web application should be scalable. For example, I just told you about your pizza shop business, right? So suddenly, a lot of people are ordering pizzas in your shop, okay? And so, how are you going to manage in delivering pizzas to so many customers within the 30 minutes bracket? So for that, your business, your application should be scalable, okay? You should think long term for that. And also, your web application should be maintainable. You should have clean code in your application. You should have separation of concerns in your application. You should, comply with all these best practices like dry. Don't repeat yourself. I've seen many students, just copy pasting code. Why are you copy pasting code just for a little bit difference? Just use the same code, but have a mechanism by which you can reuse the same code with a little bit difference. That is dry concept. Don't repeat yourself. Then another concept is KIS. Keep it simple. Anything which can be done simple, don't make it complicated. Just keep it simple. These are some common tools which you will be using. For example, you will be using editors, obviously, for coding. You might be using IDE, Integrated Development Environment. For example, Notepad++ or Sublime Text or Visual Studio, whichever you find best. And if you're using Java, you might be using Eclipse or NetBeans, etc. Then you will be obviously running your application first on your laptop and then only on internet or www, right? So on local, you can use Tomcat server, for example, for Java. Then you will be testing your applications on your machine. So obviously you should have Internet Explorer, Chrome, Safari, Firefox browsers in your machine, because you want your website to be able to look good for everybody around, and it should, behave correctly for everybody using these browsers. Then there are other tools also. I'll just name them. You might use it, you might not use it. Firebase, Azure, Heroku, Google App Engine, WordPress, Joomla, Drupal, Wix, Weebly. All these are just, tools available to create websites. That's it. Now, how do you prepare for this? How do you prepare for this kind of, career option? Anything like, for example, if you want to learn anything, you want to learn Python, for example, you just go to the official documentation of Python, and then start reading it. And once you have read the major aspect of it, you are good to go. But many students, they find it very boring to read the official documentation. That's why there are so many online courses available, and Skill-Lync also provides online courses. It's very good, because uh, once you study something from online courses, there are very experienced professionals who are teaching them to you, so you have a very good path of learning with them. Then once you do courses, and any developer in this world has not become a developer just by studying. Everybody has to first practice, make practical projects, showcase them to people to show that, okay, I'm a good developer, look at the projects which I have made. And then you create a portfolio with those projects. One practical project I just gave you to make is a to-do list application. Okay, you create that, you put it on a portfolio, for example, on GitHub is a place where people can put their code in repositories, and they can share it with others, and you can also look at other people's code and you can contribute to them. Okay, so that is first study how to use GitHub, make a portfolio in that, and upload projects over there. You can also contribute to open source projects. For example, Node.js, as I told you, is open source, and there are many open source technologies, right? Their source code is available. If you go over there and if you see that there's some problem with with that technology, you can solve that bug, or you can add features for them. So you can just contribute over on GitHub, for example, and then this is something which will give you a very good ranking among recruiters. Contributing to open source is viewed as a very good thing. Then you can also participate in contests. You can participate in competitive coding contests like on HackerRank or CodeChef, because they help you in your problem solving skills using algorithm and data structures. But as web developers, we would need it on the minimal, so just keep it at the minimal. You can also participate in hackathons. In fact, I suggest that you participate in hackathons, because whatever you study, whatever you learn within 24 hours in a hackathon, that is more than what you will learn within weeks. So participating in hackathons is a very good thing. Then many recruiters have a requirement, and it's obviously very good to have a degree in engineering or IT. And then what will make you a good developer is having good communication and analytical skills. So for example, you are a student or you're just beginning with your career, you have enough time to develop your communication skills and quantitative aptitude skills by giving some time in a day. Then lastly, certifications might help you. If you have online courses, certifications, that will help you showcase what you have learned. And obviously you should definitely have knowledge of whatever you are saying that you have certificate of. Then once we know all these things, web application development, architecture, and everything fine. Me, like for example, I was in BTech, and my major was electronics. Okay, being from electronics, and I immediately got a job on campus in a company as good as Cisco Systems as a business applications developer. Okay, as an IT engineer. How did I do that? Because you don't need to have a computer science degree for that. You can be an engineer from different backgrounds, but studying web applications development is a very easy thing, I would say, and it's a very interesting thing, and that's what I did, and that's how I landed a job. But there are certain computer science subjects which definitely you should have an idea about. So the first thing is programming. You should have some sort of programming knowledge of Java or Python, and definitely of JavaScript. You should have some basic understanding of data structures, algorithms, database management systems, especially SQL, and some understanding of some basics of operating systems, computer networks, and digital logic, computer organization, and microprocessor systems. Okay, and definitely about software engineering and web development subjects, which computer science students have, and some basics of system design. I know this looks a lot, but since you are only starting, many of you might be only 20, 21, 22, whatever. So you have a lot of time. Your career is 30 to 40 years. So you can begin now, and you can just keep yourself, updated with technology. You can keep practicing. Practice makes a man and a woman perfect. So, you can just start doing that. And to motivate you, I just have some words for you. You should get so good that they can't ignore you. You should be obsessed or just be average. Because, on an average, many people are there. But if you are obsessed with what you do, then you will be good. And many times, we get scared. We get scared with looking at all these new things around and, how are we going to cope up and all that. The only thing for that is just go do it. Don't be scared. Just go do it. And once you do it, all the, all that scariness will go away. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you like technology, if you like coding, if you like to, touch people's life this way, like for example, Uber and Ola has made our lives very easy, and WhatsApp, for example, has made our lives very easy. So if you feel that you can contribute in making people's life easier through technology, and you like it your own self, then if you love what you do, you will be able to do great work.